About 2 weeks ago, I dropped a How Strong is Tobirama, due to him being what I'm mainly known for, I suppose. However, over the last month and a half or so, I found myself disapproving with many points that were brought up in my old Minato vs Tobirama video, and I want to do that better and do those justice by these two How Strong videos with both respective combatants. Then, if needed, eventually redrop the actual full in-depth analysis on who wins between Tobirama and Minato. With that being said, since I've already covered the Silver Slicer, I should now cover the God of Speed, the Yellow Flash, Minato Namikaze. As I'm sure you all know, I've made many Minato comparisons on my channel, placing him in Titanic versus battles, and simply grazing over what is truly phenomenal when discussing his actual power. However, here I will be going all in depth on the 4th Hokage. However, first we need to revisit the war arc, and more specifically the chapters of 637 to 642. If you don't already know what I'm talking about, and what I'm mostly referring to, we need to discuss the most disingenuous way to downplay Minato. Yes, I myself am guilty of. However, here I want to both make up for that and revisit the truth of if Minato is in a Daze. However, first, before we do that, a brief character analysis for Minato is needed. Minato, as a child at the mere age of 10 years old, graduated from the Shinobi Academy with the highest graduation exam scores ever, a prodigy as rare as they come, with Jiraiya, a rather self-absorbed individual, stating that everybody pales in comparison to the Fourth Lord, with both him and Tsunade coming to the agreement on the idea that a shinobi of his capacity was unparalleled and was truly a one-of-generational chance. He was overflowing with talent for jutsu and intelligence despite not being born from a special clan or inheriting cool red eyes. Minato was even extremely popular with the ladies, if you will. The girl Minato always wanted was Kushina Uzumaki, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, and the red-hot habanero of Konoha. He even got her and married the girl of his dreams, fought on Team 7, with Jiraiya in the Third Great Ninja War, being able to save his platoon from Han and Roshi, two Jinchuriki capable of utilizing Biju bombs. Then, even later, towards the latter half of the war, gaining his own leadership position over his newfound team, consisting of Obito, Kakashi, and Rin. Minato teaching these children to the absolute best of his ability. Kakashi was arguably the greatest prodigy ever, and Obito was a Chunin before he even unlocked the Sharingan. However, it would be during this war that the tragic events of Kanami Bridge would take place, where Minato wouldn't be there to save his beloved student Obito, then Rin a few years later at the hands of Kakashi. However, everything was okay for the Yellow Flash as he saved the Leaf Village from losing the war, bringing many weaker platoons to victory, absolutely bullying A and B of the Cloud, and eventually earning the nickname of the Yellow Flash. Then, more importantly, the 4th Hokage. Minato won. He was the hero. In his final battle, Minato died saving Konoha in the sense that he was able to give up his own life for his son to be the Jinchuriki and Konoha's battle power to remain at an all-time high. Minato sort of tying his moral values with the prosperity of the village, if you will. Then, some decade and a half later, Minato was revived by Orochimaru and then gained Caesium too. However, in the arduous battle to stop Obito from reviving Madara, Minato, being the fastest Hokage, blitzed over to him and slashed him open. This would be the one fatal calculation in Minato's plans all those years ago. It was Obito Uchiha, his very student, who caused the death of his wife, Hiruzen's wife, and countless other innocent Leaf shinobi, finally giving Minato the supposed realization that it was his very mistakes that caused the Leaf to suffer. This actively caused Minato to act quite differently, with the 4th data book stating that, quote, cheering up Minato from his stupor would be the one who would become a first-class shinobi. For those who are unaware, a stupor is a medical term referring to those whose mental state is so taxed that they in fact lose their physical ability as well. In medical terms, a stupor is a state of complete or nigh unresponsiveness in a person's mental synapses that only serious, vigorous stimulation can snap one out of. When left alone, the individual will then return to their unresponsive state. Now, for one, I myself included used to argue that Minato is moving in battle, therefore he would be vigorously stimulated. This is erroneous, as I am indeed admitting that I was wrong, and that a shinobi's definition of vigorous would be different to our own due to their everyday experiences, and a shinobi like Minato would be an outlier to that and would have even higher interpretations to that idea, so our subjective interpretation of what vigorous is probably isn't his. Now, the feat many people love to argue is Tobirama supposedly blitzing this Minato. However, this is blatantly false, or at least it doesn't do anything for the pro-Tobirama team. Minato was left alone in this interaction, with both the pressure and the orb being placed on him. Therefore, even if you want to bring this back to medical terms, he was in an unresponsive state once again. And let's not act like Minato isn't reacting. He is reacting to the orb, and he just doesn't know what to do with it. Yet Tobirama uses body flicker to move in, grab the orb, and then use his FTG marking to teleport back to Jubito. And Jubito still reacted to that Tobirama, so this still doesn't do anything for Tobirama, considering a few things. Firstly, being that Minato simply didn't know what to do in that instance, when Tobirama already had the marking there and a clone ready to go pre-pepped. Secondly, Minato did react to Tobirama. As you can see, his mouth changes its shocked expression immediately, and then he raises his head, meaning that Tobirama didn't even completely blitz this Minato here physically. And let's be real, EMS Sasuke is reacting to this as well, which goes to further corroborate both that the Daze and the idea that Minato didn't get blitzed, since in chapter 643, when Minato has exited his Daze, he then goes on to combat alongside BSM Naruto, who is a rival to a far later Sasuke with the perfect Susanoo. So this is more of the Daze impacting his real mental ability rather than Tobirama just blitzing him. And even then, suppose that's true, then that just means that Minato could do the same whilst alive, since his body flicker is already stated by Tobirama himself to exceed his own. So Hokage Minato could have just done the same thing, or even better, and this just goes to prove that body flicker is truly leagues above pure combat speed, and comparing the two is disingenuous. One thing my buddy TG brought up to me is that even in the deeper portions of the war arc, Minato notes that Madara's Sage Jutsu is beyond that of Obito, referring to his Ten-Tailed state, which could allude to the idea that Minato sensed the Sage energy, yet never capitalized on saying anything, just due to, again, his mental impairment. So let's not be just dishonest towards, Minato and give him a fair interpretation, rather than just saying that base Edo Tobirama is a blitz level above KCM Minato, when it's just been established that base Minato is already implied to be faster, whether that be in the 4th data book or even in the chapter synopsis statements. Before I conclude KCM2 Minato's portion, another interesting idea is that, considering that Hokage Minato, whilst alive, was already faster than the full Nine Tails, gaining half of it in his reserves wouldn't really amp his speed that much as it would, say, Naruto, who in base isn't near Minato's tier of speed. So therefore, gaining an increase as such just wouldn't tier Minato up to the level as it typically did for Naruto. However, again, whilst alive, you could arguably say that Minato is dodging the full Nine Tails point blank, and is even more impressive when considering that just half of the Nine Tails, Naruto was able to combat Edo Madara in his KCM2 cloak and White Mask Obito, which unironically is the form that Kakashi compares Hokage Minato to during the war arc. Anyway, the feat of him dodging the full Nine Tails isn't even considering that Minato had used several FTG, kunai at that point, a jutsu that takes 3 high-level Jonin just to have the reserve to use it a singular time, and even Guiding Thunder, a jutsu even more taxing than that Minato used to react to the full Kyuubi Biju Bomb. As the 3rd data book states, it creates a crack in space and time. He also then went on to face a 17-year-old Obito, a threat beyond any since the days of Madara Uchiha, leading Minato to conclude that it could even be Madara himself. Yet Minato at this time still kept his cool, even though he was both aware that his wife would be dead very soon and only survived this long due to her Uzumaki lineage, and was fatigued from many large-scale jutsu he used prior. Yet Minato, using his sheer speed alone, was capable of blitzing Kamui's passive timer. Now, you may be asking what I mean. Well, we know that Minato was forced to hold back through the brief encounter so that he could then decipher how Kamui works. This is likely just due to it simply being that dangerous as it appeared, with, it being, as he puts, a space-time ninjutsu that surpasses both his and Tobirama's respectively. Minato then was able to keep pace with this Obito rather casually, then using his sheer speed once again, Minato then threw the kunai through Obito's head, outsmarting him, and then utterly blitzing Obito so hard to the point it looked like he wasn't even moving. Now, from this point, you can go one of two routes. First being that yes, the Kamui is passive, yet there has to be a speed at which the ability itself reacts to oncoming mediums and attacks. Therefore, Minato would have just blitzed this timer. This is the only time anyone was ever able to actually do this. And the second route is that Obito just was much slower than Minato, and that he wasn't even able to process Minato's arriving behind him, and simply just stayed materialized while Minato just completely blitzed him and turned his whole body. And this is consistent as well when moving back to the beginning of the encounter, in which Obito grabbed baby Naruto and tossed him in the air with the intent of stabbing him, and Minato used his body flicker to completely blitz Obito's movement, arguably perception blitzing Obito, This is consistent with two things, first of which being that Minato uses body flicker rather than flying rising unless a marking is already placed in the perfect location. This is shown in both this instance as well as Kakashi Gaiden, in which he needs to save Kakashi and he used body flicker to do so. Minato's body flicker is virtually uncontested throughout the entire series, with this being what he used to blitz Tobirama, Hashirama, and Hiruzen in the beginning of the 4th Great Ninja War, with Tobirama admitting that in terms of peak raw movement speed, Minato is faster than him, and Hiruzen stated outright that Minato is as fast as ever, which aligns with Hiruzen praising him, as the 4th data book states, praised among all shinobi as the greatest in godlike speed, which could allude to Hiruzen hailing Minato as faster than his mentor Tobirama, or anyone else for that matter, which When going back to part 1, Hiruzen was uncomfortable at the idea of facing off against Orochimaru, stating that he didn't even believe that he was capable of fighting him, and that only if Minato, the 4th Hokage, were still around. The chapter 338 synopsis statement states that Minato possessed unrivaled strength, which pushes the narrative of him being above Hiruzen in his old age, who of the which, whilst even older, was said to be above all 5 Kage, which I have heard that many people say is inconsistent or unsupported. However, I question that very idea, especially when accounting for Hiruzen scaling above Orochimaru, who is implied to be above MS Sasuke, who fought on par with every Kage, and even Danzo himself, a character who fought on par with the strongest MS Sasuke, is still implying to himself that he is not on the level of old man Hiruzen. So, Minato's strength would just also be beyond that of the 5 Kage, which is supported even further with the Raikage A, claiming that no shinobi ever lived that was as fine as Minato, with him highlighting Minato's speed even more than stating that no one alive is faster than him now that the 4th Hokage is dead, with A never speaking this highly of anybody else in the entire series, including MS Sasuke, Orochimaru, or Hiruzen, yet the young Minato that he used to rival is just the pinnacle of shinobi, if you will. One thing that many fans like to do to downplay Minato is just imply that Hokage Minato didn't get any stronger from his Jonin days and was just static. However, this is blatantly wrong. As we know in the second data book, it's implied that Minato exercised the command ability he fostered in battle, even after becoming Hokage. However, the main notion I use to justify him being stronger is that in the 4th data book, in reference to V2A, it stated that, quote, it could even overtake Naruto in his tailed beast mode. It boasts a godlike speed, not inferior to the Yellow Flash. This supports the idea that V2A has godlike speed on the level of Jonin Minato, who's on the level of KCM1, which is also supported elsewhere. However, in Minato's 4th data book page, as I mentioned earlier, he is stated to be praised among all ninja as the greatest in godlike speed, which means that they both possess godlike speed, with Hokage Minato being above V2A, who's not inferior to Jonin Minato. The chapter 543 synopsis statement pushes this further, believe it or not, with it stating that the 4th even surpassed the Raikage, which grants us one question. If Jonin Minato is KCM1 level and Hokage Minato is faster than that, so much faster in fact that unbiased medians imply straight up that Naruto is the only character capable of surpassing Minato, which, as TG brought this to my attention, this would be, mean that he would no other character, even those like Raikage A, Tsuchikage Oniki, Orange Mask Obito, Sekitachi, and even the 6 Paths of Pain aren't able to surpass Hokage Minato's tier of shinobi, which, when considering that Minato already implied that pain isn't a threat, this isn't seemingly out of the question. With that being said, just how fast is Hokage Minato then? In order to, understand this complexity, we need to first understand the battle shonen narrative that comes with Naruto's power progression and what it means. Naruto Uzumaki, through the entire series, has always been compared to his dear old dad time after time again, with the narrative portraying the idea that Minato being the ideal perfect shinobi and Naruto is a dunce who strives for that same praise and level. Firstly, back in part 1, Naruto learns a move straight out of the 4th Hokage's arsenal, the Rasengan, the legendary jutsu modeled after the Biju Bomb perfected in 4 years, the jutsu that supersedes even Sasuke's Chidori. Naruto has the honor of mastering it. Then, Naruto went on to create a jutsu that Minato was unable to, being a variant of the Rasengan that has a nature transformation added to it, with Naruto then creating the Rasen Shuriken, and the arc directly after that, Naruto went on to master Senjutsu and surpass his father in that aspect, with Minato also being a perfect sage, just not a very good one. Then, entering into the war arc, Naruto gaining his, speed-based form, being KCM1, and is now surpassing the level of Jonin Minato in speed. This is perfectly displayed with his encounters with the Raikage mirroring each other perfectly. Then, whilst Naruto needed more power, and needed to save Kakashi and stop the Biju bombs like how Minato once did, and Minato was shown commonly doing in his new one-shot, Naruto gained KCM2, and Kakashi believed it was Minato who was standing before him. Some like to say that Kakashi could just be thinking back to his kid days, so Kid Kakashi compared to Hokage Minato is the same thing as adult Kakashi compared to KCM2 Naruto. However, this is wrong, as Kakashi actually had every reason to believe that Minato could have been there due to him seeing the Edo Tensei Jutsu in action, and this is the last time we get a comparison until later when Naruto gives, the chakra to the Alliance, in which Kurama's, the Nine Tails states that Naruto had long surpassed both Minato and Kushina. However, this could be true, but just take what Kurama says with a grain of salt, considering he does hate Minato and Kushina very badly. I mean, they chained him to a ball of lava. I can't really blame him. Then, the end of Naruto's narrative was in chapter 691, where Naruto finally surpassed his father in physicality, and promises to be an even greater Hokage than he was. We also know that the entire narrative of Naruto's power in regards to mastering the Nine Tails was to in fact beat the masked man who faced off against the 4th Hokage some 16 years ago, with Minato perfectly displaying his sealing jutsu mastery, which I'll get into in a minute, and appeared within Naruto's mental scape to inform him that pain isn't the real threat, but rather the masked man is, a threat that stage mode Naruto is not even in the caliber of, and is a threat that would require Naruto to master the Nine Tails power, which Minato doesn't really have a complete grasp on. However, comparatively speaking, Minato was capable of combating the most powerful of all the nine-tailed beasts, Kurama himself, so Minato, could just be basing it off that, and he was correct, which goes to show not only his speed and power, but also his intellect. Minato was able to checkmate and blitz a character who is implied to be capable of slapping Pain around, the same Pain who just prior to this, beat the entire Leaf Village, killed Sage Mode Jiraiya and Kakashi, and utterly humiliated the entire village at once. This means that Minato witnessed all of that through Naruto's eyes, and outright stated that Naruto isn't strong enough to be neither on his level nor the masked man's. Therefore, with a bit of a higher interpretation, Minato is KCM2 level in speed whilst Hokage, with him being able to combat that threat of Obito and the overlying narrative, as I mentioned prior, which really isn't preposterous when, again, Minato is capable of outspeeding Hashirama to the battlefield. This would be the same Hashirama who would go on to fight Madara for virtually most of the war arc. A Madara, while suppressed and goofing off, was able to combat that very KCM2 Naruto. And at the very least, we should all be aware of the fact that Minato in KCM2 is far greater than Naruto in his. Even towards the latter half of the war arc, Minato, using sheer speed alone, is capable of blitzing war arc Kakashi, a stronger Kakashi than the one who fought on par with Rinnegan Obito for a few chapters or so, with Minato being much faster than this. Going back down to base stats, I believe this is rather fair. Minato's speed isn't the only thing that gave him such a deadly reputation and made him such an impressive shinobi, but it was also his speed combined with his highly articulated brilliant mind, coupled with his masterful execution and knowledge on sealing ninjutsu, and Minato is a deadly opponent regardless of scenario. The definition of power, according to Oxford Languages and a few other sources, is the ability to act or have influence upon events, and the reason why this is important is in the new Minato spin-off manga, it gave us a pretty solid insight on his power, with Kurama himself stating that, quote, he's augmenting the tetragram seal in his own style, a most powerful shinobi ranking alongside that of the first Hokage, Hashirama. Unbelievable, end quote. This, of course, doesn't mean that Minato possesses as much raw strength as Hashirama, but is capable of dealing with combatants of his caliber via what makes him special, his speed, intelligence, and sealing ninjutsu. There are several variations of translations for this statement, however, all consist of one idea: shinobi of the caliber of either Hashirama or Hashirama's era that would have had to have interacted with Kurama. This narrows the list down regardless of translation, making it Hashirama, Madara, and with a bit of generosity, Mito Uzumaki. I had heard some people try to shut down this statement entirely via just arguing that it's only in reference to sealing capacity, not physical ability. This is erroneous, as Hashirama never once shows any sign of sealing anything into an object or being, with his only potential sealing arguments being the Gracious Deity Gates or the Rashomon Gates as well, which do not quite apply to the statement in question, which just means that Minato has ways of dealing with opponents, i.e. Kurama, in a similar fashion to Hashirama. This is supported in that very manga, with the reason as to why Minato created the Rasengan was revealed being to fight Biju and Jinchuriki, with him going on to clash with and be implied to overpower a Nine-Tails Biju Bomb, albeit a very minuscule one at that, but still larger than the one that Orochimaru conceded would just outright kill him, meaning that at just 15 years of age, Minato Namikaze could one-shot Sannin. Crazy, I know. However, again, let me reiterate to you that when the Raikage thinks back in Minato, he thinks about his speed and sealing, which would just eclipse this power. Kushina Uzumaki went on to teach our beloved Minato a great number of sealing jutsu, such as the 8 tetragram, the 5 prong, the guiding thunder, and the Reaper Death Seal, are just some to name a few that he has within his arsenal, and which it's also implied that during his last moments, he has other jutsu capable of sealing Kurama without the Reaper Death, but needed to do so to split the Nine Tails apart due to it not being strategically wise to embed that much chakra into an infant. This is a Minato after using the Guiding Thunder, a jutsu that cracks space-time itself, using Flying Rising several-fold, fighting the most dangerous enemy and Sharingan user since Madara Uchiha, and combating the full Nine Tails within point-blank range. So Raikage A, being in awe at Minato's sealing capabilities makes sense even with his village sealing Gyuki constantly. The most masterful jutsu Minato possesses is the Flying Thunder God, which is a speed technique that requires so much chakra that 3 elite Jonin are what's required to use it a singular time. Yet Minato, during his miasmic death battle with Obito, he uses this jutsu nearly constantly, along with an even more chakra depriving variation, the Guiding Thunder, as I mentioned earlier, which I'll discuss in a minute. And he also used Body Flicker several times and a Rasengan. Then, after completely throttling an opponent of that caliber, Minato still had enough chakra to summon the boss totem Mount Miyaboku, Gamabunta, which summoning Gamabunta is a feat in and of itself, with Naruto as a child having far greater chakra reserves than Kakashi, still being barely able to do it. So, I think it would be this encounter that unfortunately gives off the impression that Minato has bad stamina, when that's just simply not the case, and likely possesses chakra reserves full of that even above top class shinobi such as Kakashi Hatake. Now, many of you guys, including myself at one point, are very unaware of how the Flying Thunder God works and what Minato is actually doing, and why it's probably more impressive than what you think. Now, it may seem obvious at first glance what the jutsu is, however, that couldn't be further from the truth. To further grasp the Flying Thunder God, we need to visit a remark made by its creator, Tobirama, in the War Arc, where he blatantly stated that a clone's Flying Thunder God would be too slow. This is rather interesting as it is his technique, and it's supposedly considered to be instantaneous, so it has speed. So what really is this jutsu? Well, in the second databook, they have a page on it, and it's about this very idea and how it works, and I'm going to read a few of the lines and piece together what they mean, so just stay with me as I'm about to blow your mind. Quote, "Its flight across space and time completed in a flash-like instant," end quote. Quote, "Its swiftness that even surpasses body flicker," end quote. Quote, "The fourth Hokage jutsu, the reason for his alias, the Yellow Flash, it's his high-speed movement over long distances. It really is space-time movement," end quote. Quote, "It's not even comparable to body flicker, it's more like summoning," end quote. So the first thing to establish is that it exceeds body flicker, which Minato's body flicker is already preposterously quick, being faster than that of even Tobirama, the second Hokage's, which when placed in battles, many people like to argue that Minato either A, can't react to that speed, or B, it's just travel speed. But other than Tobirama implying that Minato's striking speed is also on that level, this argument here with the Flying Thunder God should solidify your stance on who is faster. Now, the second thing to assess from this is that it's high speed movement, swiftness across flight, and all the way across space and time, which means that it's not just teleporting, and it's Minato actually moving through a distance beyond space and time, then reappearing at another location within the world, which, when you analyze the Guiding Thunder and how it works, it's the exact same principle, yet just sending an object through that subspace rather than yourself. This means that Flying Thunder God isn't truly teleportation, but a speed technique. Therefore, when accounting for statements such as the fourth databook claiming that Minato handles the jutsu to perfection, just directly implies that Minato is faster than Tobirama, with his Flying Thunder God not even being his top set speed, considering that when Minato arrives at the battlefield in chapter 631, you could see that Minato teleports to Naruto's location with that kunai just getting there, with the motion lines being displayed on it. We cut to another kunai on a rock with no motion lines, with Minato already placed there and teleported the Bijou Bomb 2, which is still where Minato is currently at, meaning that Minato actually hardcore blitzed the Flying Thunder God speed and transference. So if you want to really hammer the nail in on if Minato is the caliber of Hashirama, then here you go. Tobirama is stated by Madara during the latter half of the war arc that he used to boast the fastest speed of any shinobi, which would include both himself and Hashirama, Tobirama's elder brother and first Hokage, which Minato is now clearly a step above Tobirama, so Minato, again, being that level isn't ridiculous. Digressing back to the Fourth War, it would be here that Minato also displayed his genius that granted him the highest Chunin graduation exam scores ever during the battle with Jubito, where even whilst in a daze and acting rather lackadaisical and lethargic, was still leading the charge head-on against Jubito, helping the contribution to save the world, then went on to fight alongside Bijou Stage Mode Naruto, both slamming the Rasengan into Jubito, making the fourth databook admit that Minato, whilst in his KCM stew state, provided powerful support to BSM Naruto. Later on, and even further past that, Minato was able to react and threaten the life of Zetsu Obito. Zetsu, who of the which, when having a far weaker vessel in that of Yamato, was able to hold down and beat around the entire 5 Kage. Now, they were fatigued, but it still managed to stalemate Hiruzen, who Minato still scales above regardless, so this is pretty consistent. Finally, Minato's last feat, his send-off feat if you will, the 8th Gate Guy feat, how essentially It's whilst Guy was combating Madara and he was going for one main attack, and then Madara fired out the truth-seeking orbs out at Guy, yet Minato, displaying his quick wit, conducted a plan forcing Lee to immediately throw the kunai in between Guy and the orbs. Then Minato, with no arms at all, teleported in between them, intercepting the orbs. Many people like to debunk this, saying that the feat kind of sucks, saying that 8th Gate's Guy is slower in the air, which is just wrong. My Guy never touches the ground during the entire Sekizo barrage, so whatever. So Guy just wouldn't be drastically slower, but you could say that Guy didn't propel himself a second time during that air encounter. Then Minato reacted to them, via thinking to teleport, and then Guy succeeded in hitting Madara. One thing important to note about this, though, however, is that Minato is yelling out for Guy just to keep on forging on ahead, which implies potentially two things. First of which being that Guy could dodge Minato, and secondly, not to slow down. However, I think the first option sort of dumbs down the second, but that's besides the point. If people could hype up things such as Minato mentally reacting to a Jonin A or Tobirama mentally reacting to a Sage Mode Madara, then how about Minato mentally reacting to a holding back 8th Gate Guy and 10 Tails Madara? So in conclusion, Minato is very fast and is truly a one-of-a-kind shinobi and is almost as cool as you if you dare to choose to like this video and subscribe, as I do put a lot of effort into my work again. And yeah. A Tobirama versus Minato matchup could be in the works and in the distant future. However, if you guys would be interested in that, just let me know. Or let me know what you guys thought about this video and what you guys would like to see next. And with that being said, love you guys.